Smith. Doug, take her away.
Can everybody hear us out there? Everybody hear us okay? Hear Gene?
Uno, dos,
everybody
tres,
good?
cuatro.
All right, Jerry, thank you so much for setting this up. This is a great opportunity to talk with one of the great leaders in college athletics. And so I wanted to go 6 hours because we have to recap a 19-year career and solve every problem in college sports, but I think we're going to try to keep it to an hour.
Great.
So I cut out the part about your childhood in Cleveland, and we're going to fast forward a little bit here, Gene. I'm curious in how you got here. So you grow up in Cleveland, you play football at Notre Dame, you're coaching at Notre Dame, you go to work at IBM, you get on the athletic director track, you become the athletic director at Eastern Michigan for 7 years, Iowa State for 7 years, you're at Arizona State for 5 years. When this Ohio State opening comes about, are you like, I'm getting that job? Did you get a call out of the blue? Did you have an idea in your head when you went to Arizona State, man, if Notre Dame or Ohio State or a job like that opens up, I want to get back to the Midwest? What got you here?
Yeah, Doug, that's a great question. First, let me thank all of you for being here, and I appreciate everyone's presence. Really appreciate it, and thank Ross for being here today. The transition has been phenomenal. You know, when I first got the call from Ohio State, it just did come out of the blue. I knew it was open. Obviously, you know, I knew Andy Geiger in the business for being in different committees, things of that nature. But I actually turned down the interview twice.
What?
Yeah, I did. And let's be clear, Doug. I mean, you know Cleveland. I was in Arizona living on a golf course, 10th tee box right out the back gate, pool in my backyard, mountains in the backyard. I could play 9 with 3 clubs, with 2 beers. I want to come back to Ohio.
Wow.
Come on. But
what
no,
a huge mistake you made.
That was not really it, but it was more about, I've been fortunate at Eastern Michigan, the time I was there, the 10 years, and Iowa State for 7, Arizona State. I didn't complete the goals I set out at Arizona State to complete. I had asked a lot of people and established relationships with a lot of people to invest in what we were doing. And when you have a vision and you are out there asking people to help invest in your vision, I had a hard time leaving it. I really did. You know, I didn't have a hard time leaving Eastern Michigan. I wanted to move up. I had a hard time leaving Iowa State only because of the relationships there, but Arizona State was the next step up. So I had a hard time taking the interview. My wife Sheila and one of her friends, Jewel Parker Rhodes, who was a phenomenal writer there and teacher at Arizona State, one night shared with me that I needed to at least go and do the interview.
Okay.
And so that's how I ended up doing the interview. I remember waking up on a Sunday morning and you know, getting dressed to go to Dallas. The interview was in Dallas in the bottom of a hotel, and since I didn't really care a whole lot, I didn't have on a tie.
You don't have a tie on today.
And well, this is a different story, but those of you who know my wife, if I was going to an interview without a tie, you know what I heard that morning. So I ended up wearing a tie. But anyway, so that's how I ended up. I initially turned down the 2 interviews, but took the 3rd one.
Okay. Ohio State cannot be in the business of only hiring people from Ohio. That would be limiting.
Right.
But is there something to cultural fit to a job in college athletics, whether it's an administrator or a coach? The fact that you are from Cleveland, that you grew up in Ohio, how did that matter to you in taking this job, and how do you think that has mattered to you in 19 years of doing this job?
Yeah, I guess it's more personal than anything. The fact that I am from Ohio and Cleveland, and I was hopeful when I came here that this would be my last job, and I would end my career in the state that I love. It meant something to me. And also, because I grew up here, I had a deep appreciation for the people of Ohio and what they all stand for. But that's not a requirement. There shouldn't be a prerequisite for anybody to be hired to work in the state of Ohio. It did provide me an advantage. understanding, where to drive and all those type of things, and just understanding the culture of the state and a little bit of the history of the state. But I don't think it's a prerequisite, but it was a benefit for me.
All right, so let's get into doing this job. Overseeing 36 varsity sports, you obviously have associate athletic directors who will have responsibilities for various sports, but when you think about the coaches that you have worked with in your time here, what did you want your relationship to be with all of your coaches, and how did you manage that? Did you have a little chart where you said, I need to call this coach today, I need to visit this coach today, I need to get to this sport? How do you manage relationships with that many people that are all, I would imagine, very important?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with at least my philosophy and just who I am. If you just care about people, you find a way. And I'm fortunate. I have two unbelievable administrative assistants. One is my direct assistant, Kim Heaton, who's here today. She controls my world with my calendar, and my other associate, Amy Dingus, who also works with Kim in controlling my world. But I am a little crazy about my calendar. So I do a lot of calendar work.
Okay.
Kim and I would periodically get on a three-way with myself, Kim, and my wife Sheila, and we go day by day by day for 1 month or maybe even 6 months. My wife is very involved in athletics because of her background, so she likes to go to athletic events, so I'm really blessed in that way, but also I don't want her surprised. If I'm not gonna be at home one night, I don't want that phone call, that text message like, we get.
Yeah.
So I probably am like everyone else. I just commit myself to that, and the people are the heart and soul of all that matters. So there was a great management writer by the name of Peter Drucker, and I read years ago one of his management books about management by roaming around. And early in my career at Ohio State, I used to roam around more. I'd drop in on coaches, I'd see their practices and spend time with them. But it's more about some of these other platforms like meetings and things of that nature where I connect with them, or different events, or going to their contests. But I want to know our coaches. I want to know them as people and what they're all about. I want to know their character. So I try my best to get to know them. That's just a lot of staff that way. It's just not the coaches, it's other people as well. So you got to make the effort and to get out to meet them and spend time with them. And I appreciate and understand what they do. And they may report to somebody else structurally, but behaviorally, we have to have a relationship. When
you were dropping in on them, do you think your coaches thought, hey, Gene's here? Or did they think, uh-oh, Gene's here? No, it got to a point where it got to a point after a while when they're like, oh, this is what he does. Okay. Right? There's certain places that makes this difficult to do, Holly and Monica sitting over there with synchronized swimming. It's hard for me to go to McCorkle and just pop in. Although, do you guys want to come up? Do you want to? I told him I was going to do this, but anyway. We'll have coaches come up, yeah. But anyway, I think really they just are okay with me popping in, and we sit and chat about whatever. And it might be 5 minutes or it might be 20 minutes. But as a result of that, I get invited to do things by them. And that's really important too, where they feel comfortable inviting me to come to something, or a meal with the athletes, or whatever. Volleyball does that a lot. Just different things, so it's kind of cool. One of the most high-profile things that any athletic director does is hire coaches. Yep. In the great scheme of things, how important is that part of your job? And you think about some of the coaches that have been hired in your tenure, Tom Ryan in wrestling, and Nadine Muzerall in women's hockey, and Ryan Day with football. How much of that was a collaborative effort? How much of that is you sitting and grinding it out and like making that decision? What was your process for making coaching hires?
It's the most important hire you make. With 36 sports, coaches are the engineers of young people's lives. And so those of you who have children, you're entrusting your child to us. And so we have to have coaches who understand, our philosophy and how we operate. But that coach is the engineer of a lot of young people's lives, and depending upon the size of your team. And so they set the culture for the team. They work with the student athlete on her or his issues, whatever they may be. They may ultimately arise to us, or the coach may ask us for help. But at the end of the day, the majority of the time, the first person is the coach or her or his, support staff around there. So they are the engineers. So you got to make sure that you hire the right people. And so the process, it is rare that I ever make a decision alone on anything. I think a mistake that leaders make is not being inclusive, not using all the intellectual capacity around you. We're all the total sum of our experiences in life. And if you don't take advantage of all the experiences that others have, or take advantage of the intellectual capacity that others bring to the table, then you don't see your blind spots. And through the eyes of others, you see yourself, so you don't see your blind spots. So I am a group thinker. Now, a lot of times I'll have to make the final decision, but I believe that you ought to include people. The other part of that is for my sport administrators. As you know, there's some of my teammates in the past who are now athletic directors. I try and encourage them to think this way. You have X number of sports. That means you have X people underneath you. That means you have X athletes. That means you have this size budget. That means you have this responsibility for revenue. That means you have this responsibility for... You're an athletic director at a small institution. Run it that way. Think that way. And so when you go and interview for a job, you tell them how big a budget you were responsible for, how many people you were responsible for. The whole ship is yours. And so you start that way. So usually we have a committee, we have student athletes on the committee, and they go through a process, and majority of the time, I'm staying in touch with whoever's leading that process. We're talking about candidates. I may call some people that I know about that candidate. I may ask somebody in the department, like, an equipment manager, to call an equipment manager at another school and say, what's she really like? You're gonna have, everybody's got somebody on their resume. I ain't gonna call those people. I mean, you'd be stupid to put somebody on the resume that's gonna say something negative about you, so I ain't gonna waste my time calling them. Have the trainers call the trainers and find out, how did he really treat you? So it's a process.
That's good advice, everybody. If someone's on your resume, Gene's not calling them.
No, I
Take
ain't
that
calling
note.
them.
Okay.
Not me. If you're that stupid to put somebody on your resume that ain't gonna say something good about you, I mean, what's wrong with you?
Search firms or no? Did you employ?
I've only used in my career, I wouldn't actually call them search firms. There's individual guys in there, who work out of their home, who would do some background work and connections for me.
Okay. But you want to run that process, a hiring process in Ohio State?
I want to run that process. I want our team to run that process, so we want all in. Now, sometimes you have to use a search firm. I just haven't been that way. I just haven't had to. I just haven't had to yet.
Okay. The other side of that is when...
I shouldn't say yet, because there will not be...
Yeah. Well, there's no more yets, Gene.
There's no more yets.
Yeah. 19 years, it's a legacy.
I'm done.
You're done. The other side of this is when a coaching change is
Yes.
required. And you said you want to be collaborative in the hiring process. You think about some of the difficult decisions that have been made here, whether it's with Jim Tressel, whether it's with Thad Matta, whether it's just recently with Chris Holtman. How do you handle that process when you are deciding and thinking about a possible coaching change? And is that collaborative, or is that more you trying to make that decision?
Yeah, it is collaborative. It's usually when I get to a point where I'm saying, based upon whatever, I think I got to make a change. So then I'll pull people in, depending upon the situation, and I'll talk through why I feel what I feel. Help me see what I don't see. And there's majority of the time in my career, everybody's on the same page when I get to that point. But we talk about it. And, should we give this individual another year? What haven't we done to help this individual be successful? What do we know about the student athletes and how do they feel? So you go through a process to make sure that you're ready to make that move, and that's not easy. I mean, if you care about people, and you want to be humanistic and you want to be sensitive in the process, you don't sit in your office and just make that decision alone. You don't, because you just don't know what you don't know. And so now I've yet to be in a situation where my teammates anywhere have said, well, I shouldn't say that. Actually, there was a time in my career where we gave that person another year. But normally in my career it's been, we need to make the move.
Okay. I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when we think about an athletic department, I think are the three main things: serving the health and well-being of your athletes, winning, and money. Am I covering the bases there mostly for the most part?
No, you're not even
there's
close.
More? No, I just had three.
I mean,
Whoops.
you don't have enough paper.
Yeah. Sorry.
Those things are important, there's no question. But culture, people, how people behave. We have 609. What? 609, somewhere in that area, staff of employees in athletics and business advancement. People forget we got business advancement, which is the hotel, Nationwide Arena, trademark licensing, all that. So having a culture with all of those teammates that operate from a value-based culture, integrity, respect, work ethic, excellence, and then they have their own personal values, family, spirituality, whatever it might be, and you embrace that and you encourage that, but the others, you got to make sure everybody's got it. I have a hard time with the exception of that time I was on the sideline of Michigan, but I have a hard time with people who disrespect people. I do. I don't care where you're from, what you look like, what your sexual orientation is. I really don't care. But I want people who get things done. And now those things may, bubble up to some of the things you're talking about. We have a revenue generation committee. Upper Deck Golf is going on right now, right, at the stadium? With 11,000 people. And I don't know what it's going to generate, but that came out of our revenue generation committee where they're just brainstorming about, okay, this is something we should look at and do. And I'm like, what is that? Right? But empowering them to be able to think differently, to do that, while it's going to generate money, in the end, it's also fun for our Buckeye Club members and all those type of things. So safety. We put 102,000 people in the shoe for let's say 4 or 5 hours. I would tell you that, where's Erica? I'm a complete idiot when it comes to safety. I don't want to be that one. I don't want to be that one. And so that ties to money, but that's also about the care that we should provide people. I worry about the parking lots and some freaking idiot with a gun. Remember, was it 2 years ago? We went through just a process of talking about, what happens if that happens? What's our triage program? I mean, people don't think about those things, but, so yes, those things, I can keep going. I mean, those things are important, but, we don't have 6 hours.
No, I wish.
And so,
yeah.
But, there's a lot more to running this than those 3 things. And we bring people together. Concerts, events, bar mitzvahs, athletic events, we bring communities together. If you go out into the RV parking lot around football games, it's a community. Or if you sit in a certain section at the stadium, it's a community. There's an usher that's been working there for 20 years, and she or he knows everybody in that section. And Jen's not here this week. Where's Jen? And somebody over there, she's on a trip. They know. And by the way, Jen gave me her seats. I mean, that's a community, because they've been sitting together for years. And so we have a responsibility to make sure that those communities have a quality experience from the time they jump on 315 and come down to the shoe or wherever. And so, my facilities team goes nuts when I stand out on the west side of the stadium and I look at traffic, and then I walk into their TV room and I'm like, Erica, show me this, or show me this gate. So, because they know how I think. How do we move those people from this gate to that gate in order to make sure they get in faster? So anyway, I'm kind of going off, but those are all the things that run through my head.
I think the parking directions are very good on game day. Don't you guys feel like when you show up, they direct you to the right spot? I've always
you
thought
guys
that's
get,
very good.
you get there early and you stay late, so
Yeah.
you don't.
When we talk about the health and well-being of athletes, though,
It's another category.
the Leadership Institute, Ohio State, I think you guys have done a lot with sports psychology, obviously.
Right.
Mental health has been a big conversation within Ohio State athletics. What do you, again, how much is that part of your daily process of,
Yeah.
we're trying to, we want to win, we want to do all these other things, but we got to make sure we're serving these athletes?
Yeah, that gets back to the hiring of a coach, right? They're kind of the epicenter of that, and making sure they create a culture where, student athletes understand that they can go to someone if they are struggling and need help, and creating that culture. Athletes, they feel like they can handle things by themselves sometimes, and that's not the way they should operate. So we put what we call a circle of care around them. So we talk about that quite a bit, and each team, each coach has their own method for tracking behaviors of their athletes. The days of an athlete having a bad practice and you just yell at them and beat them up, they're gone. You need to go to where the athlete is. I mean, they may be going through some issue that you just don't know about, so you have to show them that care. But yeah, that's a big part of what we do. We have experts, sports psychologists or athletic trainers. We got those people. We have to use them. It's a big part of what we do.
Then there's winning. I believe it's 35 team national championships in your time here.
Okay.
How much, this is a ridiculous question at Ohio State, how much does winning matter?
That is pretty ridiculous.
I mean, I know, it's like, but sometimes you ask
Bill
that
Landis
stupid
back
question,
there,
you get a good
what
answer.
kind of question is that he's asking? What
Does
is
winning
that?
matter at Ohio State?
No, we want to win. Yeah, we want to win. We want to win in everything we do. I mean, that's you for a lot of different reasons you want to win, but one of them is those student athletes deserve that experience. That's why they come to Ohio State, is to be put on a platform, to be coached, to be developed, so that they can win. You ask any athlete, they want that ring, they want that rock, or you go on social media and you see the synchronized swimming team and they're like holding their rocks out like that, or the pistol team holding their 4 rocks out like that. They want to win. The dance team leaves next Tuesday for the world. Is that right? I might have that wrong. They want to win. And so that's what we have to do in our environment, is to create that environment so that they can have that remarkable experience of winning. It carries with you for the rest of your life. And for me personally, when I won as a student athlete, I remember those experiences, and they helped drive me today.
You mentioned synchronized swimming. You think about the pistol team, the fencing team. Men's volleyball has won national championships here. The women's hockey team has won 2 of the last 3. The 2014 national championship in football, obviously. Like when you think about the success here, is there anything, anything that leaps to front of mind of moments where you're sitting there and Ohio State's lifting a trophy?
Yeah, I have to say, I've obviously been asked that. I had to reflect on it, and obviously the football championship was huge. I mean, there's a lot of them, but I got to tell you that the wrestling championship in St. Louis, and it may be because I had such a connection with those athletes. And I remember I was in North Carolina at the women's first or second round, whatever it was, and I had to fly to St. Louis, and we had to run to get in there, and seeing those athletes on that stage in that environment with their individual championships, and it was just, you got the Cal Snyders, you got the Miles Martins, you got the Tomasellos, the Logan Stevers. That was a juice team, and when you think of wrestling, a lot of sports are this way, but when you put a wrestler out there on the mat, it's a different world. Mm-hmm. It's a different world, and so I got jacked up around that championship. I was a complete idiot fan at that one. I didn't cuss anybody out, but I was close.
Close. That's good to know. The Director's Cup.
Yeah.
This is a way to measure success across all sports. I believe in your tenure, Ohio State finished second 3 times, in the top 5 6 times. Never quite got over the top against Stanford, man. They're tough.
Tough.
Are you mad? Did you think you were ever going to get them?
No. Well, there was one year I thought we were going to get them. We were so close, but Stanford does such a great job. I really pay tribute to them, and the point system kind of plays in their favor. But
here it is. Oh, you're the point system. Yeah, you're mad a little bit.
The point system kind of plays in there. Ross knows this. It kind of plays in their favor. But no, it is a joy for us as a department to be recognized in that grouping. It's a measurement that it's like rankings for an institution on the U.S. News World Report, and so for us, it's always important to be in the hunt. And I think North Carolina is the only team that ever actually won it outside of Stanford. Who? Texas. So otherwise Stanford's won it every year. Yeah. But we got to be in the hunt. And I think right now we're 10th after the winter. Is that right? So we puts a lot of pressure on our spring sports.
You think of, Texas, Florida, Michigan, there are some other big powers that operate near the top of the Director's Cup standings. Right. But I don't know if you said this originally. I certainly have stolen it from whoever said it many times over the years. But I think you could argue, maybe it's not only, but it's one of the few that Ohio State wants to compete with Alabama in football and wants to compete with Stanford and everything else. Which is not how everybody operates, right? There certainly are athletic departments that are like, football is it, and we're not worried about the Director's Cup. There are other places that maybe want to be more holistic. What has it been? Do you believe there is something to striking a balance between serving a monster football program and serving 35 other sports as well? Is there any push and pull there, or does that seem to you like, well, of course we can do all of it? Because I'm telling you, Gene, I don't think most places try to do all of it.
Yeah, we're complete idiots. We try everything. We try to do it all. And you know, now the model's going to change. That will make it very difficult.
Yes.
But where we were and where we are, no, we try and put the resources in place that's necessary for every single sport to have a chance to chase the dream. And that obviously elevates to the Director's Cup. But, you know, philosophically, everywhere I've been fortunate, been blessed. You know, the student-athlete experience in every single sport is the same as it is in football. When you get down to it, when you get granular and you get down to the competitive experience that the student-athlete has, it's the same. It's a different sport, of course it is. And there's a different visibility to it, of course it is. But, you know, when our volleyball team goes to the weight room, they're going through the same grind. It's a different type of grind, but it's still going to challenge you the same way physically as it would a football player. So I want them all to win. That's going to be difficult moving into the future. It will be, to give every single sport that same level of support necessary to do that. So we may have to, they may have to change their expectations with individual sports, but every sport we have right now, we expect to win.
Do you wish, you're talking about the future and you caught yourself there. It's not we, it's they now for you. We all see what's coming, and we're going to get to more of your ideas about the future of college